Good day everyone and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to continue working on my series of yokai dolls, and the next creature on the list is Oni-san. Don't rush switching your browser to incognito mode because it's none other than Shrek's brother from Japan. Oni are typically depicted as trolls with red or blue skin, so for this project I'm going to use this Abby doll from Monster High. Besides being blue, she is also a yeti and has stronger jawline and bigger palms with claws compared to other dolls. A perfect pick for an Oni, if you ask me. I've decided to give her contrasting red hair, partly because I really love the color of this yarn and I was looking forward to using it in one of my projects, but also because I needed a strong color accent to make this project more lively. And together with light blue skin, this red hair will create simultaneous contrast. It's one of my favorite types of contrasts because it doesn't have any particular explanation to it, it's just the way one color might influence our perception of another color if we put them next to each other. Like red looks more saturated next to a pale light blue color, and this light blue looks even colder when placed next to the red color. With red and blue it might not be as obvious, but a better example is gray and any other color. Like compared to gray, any other color looks more saturated, and that's what simultaneous contrast is. So I brushed the yarn, ironed it, and now everything is ready for rerouting. Some people prefer to do it the other way around, like first reroute and then brush and straighten the hair, which is also an option, but I think it's way easier to work with already prepared fibers, as like this you have better control over the amounts of hair you plug in, and I also feel like it won't be easy to get close enough to the scalp with a hair straightener. And the roots might look a bit fuzzy. I also left 2 spots without hair for the future horns. I love how this hair looks, it's just like flame, so hot. I chose to use PVA glue to fix the hair this time because yarn is pretty voluminous and probably requires more liquid glue to get them properly soaked in. And nobody uses boil wash technique on yarn, so being waterproof is also irrelevant. However, there was still one flaw that I didn't see coming. I'll show it after I'm done with the face-up. Next, I'm going to sculpt some fangs using epoxy sculpt. After sculpting, I washed my hands very carefully to make sure I don't leave any epoxy marks on the doll's face. These stains might be really tricky because they are not really visible before you start blushing, but then boom! No, thank you. Epoxy sculpt usually doesn't stick to soft vinyl as good, so after it hardened I removed the fangs and glued them again with super glue to make the connection more reliable. Oni is one of the most popular creatures in Japanese folk tales. However, all of the Onis are different. Like in some stories it's just a troll who eats humans and drinks, in the other stories it's almost a godlike sorcerer, or sometimes it's just an evil and cruel person. But what all of them have in common is inhuman strength and evil personality, so I tried to imagine what an Oni could do for a living in modern days, and I figured they would make a perfect gang leader. Also, I didn't want to miss a good opportunity to sculpt an Oni mask. After all, why not? Why wouldn't I sculpt an Oni mask for the Oni doll? I protected the doll's face with 2 layers of plastic wrap and some elastics to make everything fit snugly. And now everything is ready for sculpting. I also made a wire armature for the mask to make it more solid. I am not sure if this move was necessary, but definitely won't hurt. As a reference I used Oni masks from Theater No, but made it a half face just like the ones samurai were wearing. There's different variations of Oni masks in Theater No. In most of the stories Oni are male, and these masks have huge tusks and more aggressive looks, but there's also Hanya masks that represent female Oni or Kijo. These masks don't have tusks, but they wear long hair instead. One of the descriptions of Kijo I found says they usually dress in rags and wear their hair long and unkempt. They live like savages far from civilization. And it made me feel so attacked. I'm going for a male only face though, because I think it will better represent her personality as a gang leader. Now the mask is ready for painting. I primed it with Mr. Super Clear and now I'm going to dry brush the mask with white acrylic paint. The mask will be red, but the red color doesn't have that good over coverage on black, so instead of applying it on the black, I use white underlays for highlights first and then paint everything red. And like this I get good coverage and dimension at the same time, with minimum amount of paint. I still had to use some black wash on the tusks though, because I had to put a thicker layer of ochre there to get rid of the red stains. And now I'm going to use this metallic paint to dry brush the tusks. It's slightly darker than gold and I think it will give them more of an antique and rich look. Then I cover everything with glossy varnish, and while it's drying, let's move on to the face up. This face up took me more time than usual because I had a really odd love-hate relationship with it, and in moments of doubt I prefer to put things aside and do something else. Think about it a bit more and then come back with a calm mind, because doubting things make me panic, and when I panic I'm more likely to make mistakes. And it's not like I hated it, but I think this confusion happened because I started the face up before I made the outfit, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to achieve with it. Some people say trust the process, but how can you trust the process if you don't know where you're going? And this is exactly the reason why I usually do the face ups last, but this time I wanted to draw the face so much that I went against the natural order of things and had to pay the price. I think my problem was that I felt like she will look better without eyebrows, but then the forehead seemed too empty, especially when she's wearing the mask, so I've decided to fill up the space by adding a third eye, and then the third eye seemed too big to me and I wanted to remove it, but after I took some time off I decided to paint its sclera black instead of white. And it solved the problem. The forehead is not as empty and the third eye is not taking away attention from the main eyes. I also decided to play a bit with metallic paint again. I don't know when I will get enough of it, probably never. In my previous video I said that I really liked this paint but needed to test it more to give my final opinion, and this time I have some cons to point out about it. For the eyes I needed a proper red color, and this set has two red colors, and that is Tango Red and Magenta. I expected Tango Red to be a proper deep red color, but it looked pink like a standard magenta. So I opened Magenta and it looked more red than the color that was supposed to be red, but with a slight pinkish shade to it. So I took this magenta instead and added some orange to it to make it a bit warmer and more red. And besides the colors being a bit off, I noticed that the red shades have pretty bad coverage. But I use them over other paint anyway, so it doesn't really matter as long as it gives it the metallic effect. Nah, what say you? The makeup is still on the dark side, but I think the metallic and iridescent paints brought it to a new level, and it's exactly my aesthetic, like blood and glitter, sweet and bitter.
We're so happy we could die.
Next up is her body. First I need to sand down all of this glitter. As I said, I don't mind some glitter, but everything must have limits. After all, I'm making an Oni, not Edward from Twilight. The glitter didn't want to give up, and neither did I, so eventually I was able to remove it. Then I primed it with MSC, and now everything is ready for blushing. For the body I used the same mix of pastels as I used on her face. First I cover everything with an almost white color. It will help me to blend the darker shades better and avoid stains. Then I add shadows where it feels necessary. I prefer a very subtle blush, so I would rather make a few layers of lighter blush to have more control over it. With this doll I applied one layer of blush, sealed it, then colored her nails and blushed some parts again, like her chest, collarbones and palms, to add more depth. Remember I said there was something wrong with PVA glue being water-based, so I let it dry for over a day, but it seems like it didn't dry through and all of my pins rusted inside. I couldn't remove them without tools. A bit sad because I really like these pins and I don't have many left, but yeah, that's life, I guess. According to lore, Oni must have some horns. My inspiration for the horns was this painting by Soga Shohaku, so I decided to make something similar for my ogress as well. First, I need to cut 2 wires, make sure they are the same size and shape, and then sculpt the horns using epoxy sculpt. Just wrapping epoxy around the wires made the horns look more like candy cones than horns, so I've added some additional texture with a silicone knife and then additionally twisted the epoxy sculpt for extra texture. And I think this twisting move gave it exactly the texture I wanted to achieve. Then I applied the wash with black acrylic paint, dry brushed with white, and then blushed with red pastels. But I still couldn't get that contrast that I saw in the painting, so I kept repeating the steps and nothing helped, until I came up with an idea to just sand them instead of dry brushing. Like this, I was able to achieve something like a nice marble effect. Then I removed the dust with alcohol and covered the horns with glossy paint. Let's try them on. Now we can finally move on to the outfit. My inspiration for the outfit was Japanese girl gang's Sukeban. If you watch anime, you've most likely seen them before, but if not, you probably know Gogo from Kill Bill. My personal favorite Sukeban character was Aoi Kunieda from Beelzebub, so I definitely wanted to dress my doll into white pants and a jacket as well. For her outfit, I'm going to reuse some of my old patterns, like this pants pattern from Futakuchi Onna and the dress pattern from Donna Beneviento. In this video, I'll only show how I altered them for this specific project, and I will start with the pants. First of all, I want them to be high waist, so I measure the missing distance and add it to the pattern. And then alter the length. I want the pants to be a bit wider, like on this reference, so I need to cut the front and back panels in the middle and spread the pattern. On this pattern I borrowed from Monster High, the front and back panels are combined in one, and it looks a bit confusing. So you just need to keep in mind which part goes where to be able to find the right spots. Then I need to make sure that the side seams are the same length. In my case, the back part was a bit too short, so I add some material in there. Then I made the pants a bit more narrow towards the bottom. I also removed like 5 mm from the waist because my basic pattern had a lower waist and the belt was wider than her actual waist. And this extra centimeter I've added in the middle of each panel will go into the folds later on. So here I won't change anything. The pockets will be a bit tricky because usually I would first fix the side seams, attach pockets and then do the inner seam. But in my pattern these two panels are combined in one by the inner seam and I don't want to split them, so my only choice is to finish the pants first and add pockets afterwards. When the pants are almost done, I can mark where I want to place the pockets with pins, take measurements and make a pattern for pockets. My sewing machine doesn't like sewing small details, so now some of the seams don't look as good as I would wish for, but sewing everything by hand is way more time consuming, so I have to make compromises sometimes as well. In general, I think it looks acceptable though. Now I need to add a button. I have two options for buttons, these transparent and light plastic ones, which are really hard to open, and these metal ones. They are the same size, just the metal ones seem a bit chubbier, but they are way easier to open. The fabric I'm using is quite thin, so it feels like using the lighter buttons would be more reasonable. However, I think it's better to use the metal ones, because opening buttons with force might damage the fabric. Later I will need to tuck her pants into her boots, and to make it easier to do, I add an elastic in the bottom as well. I think it also gives the pants a more finished look. Let's see how they will look on the doll. I would totally wear pants like this myself. Next up is her jacket. I'm using a pattern from a dress, and normally a jacket has to be a bit more loose than a dress because it's something we wear on top of other clothes. And I also wanted to make it slightly oversized, so there's plenty of changes I need to make. First of all, I need to move the dart from the armhole to the side seam. Later I will just gather this material and there will be no dart at all. Then I need to make the shoulders bigger and the armhole deeper. These are two changes I did to the armhole, and if you change the armhole, you must change the sleeve as well. So if I made the shoulders longer, it means I added material here, and now I need to remove the same amount of fabric from the sleeve. And when I made the armhole deeper, I increased the length of the armhole. So now I need to make the sleeve wider. Next, I'm going to change the silhouette of the jacket itself to oversize it by adding some extra material along the side seams. Then make the neck hole wider and increase the length of the jacket. Next, I need to measure the length of the neck hole from the center of the back to the middle of the front, and use this measurement to build a collar. Collars come in all shapes and sizes, so I'm just eyeballing the rest and hoping it will fit nicely. I know how you feel. I don't really like pattern drafting myself, and it's literally my job. But seriously, don't be afraid. Even professionals don't get their patterns perfect on the first try. Before the pattern goes to production, they make at least 2 mockups. Then a test product, add more changes, and only then this pattern can go into mass production. And as we can see in shops, the quality is still questionable. With those, I never make mockups though, because they are small, and if something doesn't work, it won't hurt to just redo the piece. Or if I don't have much fabric, I would just leave bigger seam allowances to have more room for adjustments. Check out how buffed up this jacket looks now. One can tell it certainly likes spinach. And under this jacket she will be wearing a simple crop top I made of lycra material. This material is also pretty tough, so I figured it can handle these plastic buttons. I really like how the outfit looks so far, but it would be incomplete without accessories. For this doll I chose these boots from Claudine, but shortened them a bit to make them look more like military boots. Then I removed the factory paint as much as I could, primed them with MSC and painted them black. Even though I painted them black anyway, I prefer to remove the factory paint first because it also has some volume to it and makes the elements more bulky. Then I used dark grey metallic paint for zippers and buckles. And I thought it would be nice to highlight the belts by painting the stitches white. And what gangster is not wearing a belt with chains? In classic tales, Oni also uses a club as a weapon, and I thought it would be good to give my gangster her little Lucille as well.
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
This was the last accessory for today, and now we can finally see the end result photos. In my previous video I made a more traditional doll, so this time I've decided to go for a modern interpretation of Oni for us to not get bored. This project felt a bit challenging for me, but I ended up very happy with this doll, and let me know in the comments what do you think about this project, and if you like this video, click the like button. If you like, you can also support my channel further by buying me a coffee. All of the links you can find in the description box. For every 100 coffees I reach, I'll make a giveaway and the winner will get a custom doll commission. Each coffee equals 1 entry. I've already got 71 coffees, so we are getting close, and I'm so excited to hear what the winner will come up with. On my side, I've already prepared the packaging and designed the box for a giveaway doll. It looks really fancy and is waiting for its future owner. Thank you very much for spending your time with me today, and I hope to see you soon in my next video. Bye!